realize one day at a time. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. They're here to get your day going fine. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio.
And here's your host, Miss Kim Robinson.
Hi, this is Apostle Dawn Westbrook. Join me on Shabbat Saturday here at Elation Radio at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we Shabbat the Lord and declare the word of the Lord over your life for this hour. Shalom.
I talk, just the way I walk. Been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ way, yeah. My Christ way, yeah. This my Christ way, okay. My Christ way, yeah. This my Christ way, yeah. My Christ way, yeah. This my Christ way. My Christ way, yeah. Yeah, I'm from the streets. South of the arch, man, where I used to drink, roll up, and used to spark, man. Now I got my head straight, shining like $1 million bucks. Christ elevated me, going past the ceiling, bruh. St. Louis fitted, God Squad t-shirt. Homie, how you doing? Pleased to meet you, this my rebirth. Addicted to the word, it's pumping through my artery. Faith on the meal, the swag is a part of me. Now my glow bright, soul's been redeemed. Covered in the blood, no shower, cause I'm clean. Done playing games, rid of the Xbox, almost flatline. But Christ made my chest pop, walked on the edge. The devil made me wobble. Jesus took the wheel, fast forward full throttle. Still in the hood, got that street slang. Mixed with the spirit, it's a G thing. Peep how I talk, check the way I walk. Been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ way, yeah. My Christ way, yeah. This my Christ way, okay. Yeah. My Christ way, yeah. God Squad, bruh. Way, yeah. My Christ way, yeah. This my Christ way, Cardiac. My Christ way, yeah. Look. My whole style come from Christ, yeah. So own it, no sir, you can't put a price. Like white on rice, I got his blood on me. To be honest, I just care about my guy, homie. And if I'm only living for him, it don't really even matter what y'all think of me. Opinions, you can let them be. I'm killing it, I let them see. The old me is gone. Keep the demons out my heart, then Christ found a home. Yeah. No more Patron or nitrous. I might just give God a praise with my best. He's high, yes. Glory in here. Hallelujah, yes, sir. Put my trust in the Lord. I ain't having no fear. No, I don't have a care. Besides pleasing my Father, tell any hater you see, man, don't even bother. Cause Jesus is my medicine. I ain't never hurting. Catching waves of his glory, man, I'm Christ swag surfing. Yeah. I talk, check the way I walk. Been set free, cause my Father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ way, yeah. My Christ way, yeah. This my Christ way, okay. My Christ way, yeah. This my Christ way, yeah. My Christ way, yeah. This my Christ way. God Squad. My Christ way, yeah.
Okay, I get it from my father. Head to toe swinging on that word, that's the motto. Used to be a up or down flipper like the Lotto. Roll with big drinking ST, old squad though. Now I'm aiming at the world with that blessed scope. Hard repetition, stay flexing, holy rollers know. When you see that light shine, this ain't baby dough. He ain't got a VVS on him, what a freak show. No, but I'm close with my father though. I ain't Leroy, but the boy got a lot of glow. Took a whole lot of laying out to kill his ego. Missing my whole purpose like Shaq with them free throws. If you rap in vain, can't edify the people. Swag on 100, gaining speed, adios flow. and I'm top flow, reaching for his glory. You think I got some swag? Christ the one that poured it on me.
I talk, just the way I walk. Been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, okay. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag. My Christ swag, yeah.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another great week. This is Minister Sedric, and we're on with Relentless Pursuit on Elation Radio. Just wanted to give a shout-out to everybody today. Today's September the 11th, and it is Friday. Yes, my heart is both happy and saddened today, as you know. As you know, today is September the 11th, and it marks 19 long years since the attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City. So today I partook into having a moment of silence this morning as I watched some of the TV programs that were on, and I remembered where I was that day. I remembered I was in corporate America, and I was living the quote-unquote good life. Didn't have many cares in the world, but I tell you, brought back memories. There was some peace in my life then. There was a lot of happiness and there was a lot of joy, but man, on that particular day, it was different. It was a very somber day. And as I thought about September 11th, I thought about we have come so far, and yet we have not moved at all. As I think about the issues that are going on in this world, here it is, September 11, 2001. We had just suffered one of, if not the worst attack ever in our country in modern times anyway. And it never happened before. Then I fast forwarded to 2020, and we are suffering one of the worst attacks that this country has ever seen. And I'm not talking about COVID-19, even though it is horrible. Has claimed over 190,000 American lives. This is a disease. This is a pandemic. And, wow, I'm not equating the two. I'm just saying that my heart is heavy today for more than one reason. And the main reason right now is because of our climate, our political climate. There is just so much going on in this world. And it got me to thinking today, ladies and gentlemen. Started thinking. We haven't moved at all. We haven't moved the needle. We thought we have come far because some of us have high-powered corporate jobs, because some of us are able to walk and live in any neighborhood that we want. But I keep coming back. This racial injustice in America is not going anyplace. And I know we've been talking about some serious topics over the past few weeks, but as I celebrated today, as I thought about, as I remembered the fallen, I could not stay just on September 11th. See, I went all the way back. I thought about Malcolm X's, the Martin Luther Kings. I thought about the Fred Douglasses of the world. I thought about places like Rosewood and Tulsa, and I thought about all these places, and I was just like, whoa. So I had to ask myself a question, ladies and gentlemen, and the question I asked myself, I will tell you, I asked myself, what is it that you want? What is it? And I was stuck, you know, and all of a sudden something came to me, something that I had heard. I have read several books on the matter, and I started thinking about, do I want racial equality, or would I much rather have equity? And, you know, I got stuck right there. I decided I wasn't going any further. I had already spoken enough. And so I whipped open the old Bible of mine, that old trusty, dusty book of mine that I carry around, those basic instructions before leaving earth that some people have aptly named it, and I opened up to Galatians 3:27-28, and it just simply said, "For those of you who were baptized into Christ have been clothed with Christ. There is no Jew or Greek, slave or free, male or female, since you are all one in Jesus Christ." And so I started thinking about that, and I thought, you know what? Here he is. He's talking to the church in Galatia, and I'm saying, well, Paul, what do you mean? And I'm sitting back and I'm looking, and I started to think that the church in Galatia was struggling with some discrimination issues. You know what I mean? The same thing we struggle with in America. And if you go back and you read, you find that those who were Jewish, they kept with the Old Testament law, and they considered themselves better than the Gentiles. Don't we have a problem like that in America today? We're all over the world, but definitely in America, we got this thing called classism as well as racism, right? And then so when you get to the people, the men were treating the women like they were property instead of God's creations, right? Slave owners were treating the slaves like second-class citizens. Don't that ring a bell with you today? And then Paul is telling us, he's saying that the grace of God is colorblind, and it's equally given to each believer. And Paul is telling us, look, there is no pecking order with God. No one is better than the other. We are all clothed in Christ. And what we need to do is just look at all of the ones who look different from us, but we need to look at them as though we looked at ourselves. Why? Because we are all family. You know the song, "We Are Family." And that's what Paul was saying, right? And so when I started thinking about what's going on here in America, what's going on today, I started thinking about, where did this whole thing about discrimination, where did it start? But we know that discrimination, and I want y'all to hear these two words, discrimination has been around since the beginning of time. Y'all know that, right? And most of us, we don't know how to deal with people who are different than us. See, that's just a very mild way of me putting that. That's a very mild way of me saying white people can't treat black people the same way they treat other white people. Why? Because, well, you're different than me, right? Black people can't treat some white people the way they treat other black people. They say, well, you're different than me. And then we all struggle with this thing. And let's not leave out the Hispanics. I'm going to go ahead and debunk the Mexicans, because I don't know if y'all know that Mexicans are different than Puerto Ricans, right? Puerto Ricans are different than Panamanians. I mean, though most of them may kind of, if you look on the outside, they may look alike. Even with the Native Americans, you can mistake them for being Hispanic or Mexican or Honduran. You can mistake them for that, but they all have different cultures, and so we don't know how to treat each other. So my thing is that all of this stuff that we do from person to person is unfair. But check this out. God put his stamp on all of us. He made us all unique in our own skin color. He made us all unique in our gender. Now listen. Unique does not mean that you are so different that you're any better or any worse than anybody, right? That means that you're a different person, right? You're a different creation, but you're the same. We are all the same. And so here what we do is we discriminate against one another. But I want to tell you that we are all equal. And I want to say, in Christ's eyes, we're all equal. But you say, but Minister Sedric, how do we change this? I'm going to tell you, the change starts with you. See, when I woke up this morning, I started thinking about September 11th led me up to the events of today, which led me to feel this way right now. Change starts with you. And Paul was trying to tell the Galatians the same thing. See, we can change the world one person at a time, but each person has to start to change, right? And I believe that we need to strive to treat others as Christ commands us to, right? We need to take on the mentality of just being a servant. See, a lot of people think that it's okay to get out here and lead. Oh, I'm a great leader. No, you're not a leader. You're a boss. Why? Because you're telling people what to do. You're directing people what to do, but you're not doing it yourself. See, good leaders, they lead by example. Good followers follow a good example. That's why I don't mind being a follower of Christ, because I know that he's the perfect example. And I want to leave us today. And I want you to really think about this. Change starts with you. And so let's not look at everybody else and look at their faults in the mirror. The man in the mirror. Michael Jackson said it best in one of my favorite songs. He said, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. So I'm going to leave y'all with that today. as we roll on into our topic for today, because I want everybody to know that we are all equal in God's eyes now. Those of us who are serving Him, those of us who are serving Christ, those of us who are walking in the blessings of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So the change starts with you. So with that being said, man, I want y'all to know I'm feeling good today. You know, again, part of me has a heavy heart, but the other side of me is very optimistic. And the other side of me is just, I'm just going through it. I want to have us a little chat today. So I want to bring on my two partners in crime, Jason. Jason, are you here with me today? And Terry, are you here with me today?
Hey, Minister Sedric, how we doing today?
Man, it's going good, gentlemen. It's going good. How you guys doing?
I'm hanging, man.
Hanging. Well, that's good. That's good news. Because I tell you what, man, I've been thinking today, y'all know I had way too much time to think. I ain't even going to tell you about my day because it ain't really over yet. But I've been tearing up my bathroom, putting in a new shower. I had a good buddy of mine, good friend of mine come over and give me a hand. So we've been tearing this place up since about 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, something like that. So still not put back together. So that means I'm going to be smelly tomorrow because I ain't going to have to take my shower. Y'all supposed to laugh because I'm just joking. But so our topic today, I really was thinking about this. Y'all way too late. Too late.
We're gonna leave that alone.
Yeah, please do. I was just joking. I know I don't like smelling bad, but who knows? But check this out. Today I was thinking, and as I said before, as I did the devotional before we came on, equity versus equality, right? Now I got a question that I want to ask y'all. And we know that the election season is upon us right now, the election 2020, and this is an extremely important election. I want to ask this. Here's the question. Now, again, my thought is equity over equality. Y'all don't have to pick that up, okay? That's just me. That's Sedric talking. But my question is, as we look at our Republican and Democratic candidates, as a whole, as being Black Americans, what should we ask of these presidential candidates for our community? What should we ask? When it comes to benefiting our community, what should we ask? What do y'all think we should be asking for? That way, I just want to have a discussion. Y'all know we sitting at the barbershop, hanging out, kicking it. I just want to talk about it. What should we ask for? Have y'all ever thought about that? Mm-hmm.
No, I have. So I think you hit right on it with the start of equity versus equality. Most of the talk you hear when you hear about the Black community is, they talk about, most Black homes only have a single mom and they don't really have much education and they need to just do better for themselves and try to be better for themselves. If they just really work hard, then they can achieve the American dream. Well, I do believe that, there is an opportunity to advance. America is set up where, you can move up your class system. However, when we talk about equity versus equality, I would say that you're right. There is a lack of education, commitment to, bettering themselves. But I think that is a product of our system that constantly puts the Black man down, Black man and Black woman down. So kids grow up to think lesser of themselves, and then they become adults who think lesser of themselves and pass that on to children after children. So when I think about equity, I think there has to be an equity in mindset where that Black child has the same mindset about I can achieve in this country just like that white child. For those of you who don't know, I think the difference between equity and equality is, yes, I think everybody's given a fair chance, but we don't all approach that opportunity the same way with the same mindset. So I think there has to be equity where if that kid grows up in a home that only has a mom that barely graduated from high school, that we invest time in to try to shift that mindset so that kid has the exact same mindset as the kid who grew up in a rich home with the parents who got, doctorate's degree and, has that same mindset toward opportunity and advancement. So if I was that is what I would ask for our candidates and the people, and that's what our elected official is. Stop giving me handouts, right? Help me shift my mindset and mentality so that I can go do for myself.
All right, so I got to kick back on something, okay? Because you said something. You said something there, Jason, that I agree and I don't agree. I just want you to clarify for me because, I'm about to blow up over here. My head is expanding. You said a handout. What do you mean by handout? What's a handout?
For me, a handout is when, you just give me something, not to get me back on my feet, but to say, okay, here, I'm going to do this to appease you.
I need you to explain it, though. I need you to get specific.
So for me, a handout is, it goes back to those things. You give a man a fish, he has a meal for a day. You teach a man how to fish, he'll never starve a day of his life. A handout to me is that constantly giving me a fish. Right, just constantly giving me a fish.
What do you mean? What's a handout? So like unemployment, like they proposed at the beginning of the pandemic, you could get your unemployment plus the government was giving you $600 a week. Is that a handout in your eyes?
I wouldn't call that a handout. I would call that supplementation.
Well, I'm asking you to clarify what a handout is.
So it's not so much. So I think when you talk about like unemployment, when you talk about food stamps, all those social programs, I don't have a problem with those. The problem is those social programs, if they're not set up to try to advance that person off that program, right? It's all they're doing is like, hey, I'm just going to keep giving you stuff, but I'm not going to give you tools to help you to get off this program. I consider that a handout because
so
I'm not really truly empowering you.
Right, but okay. I'm gonna let that stay right there because I want to come back to that, Jason, because I hate to say it, but I'm hearing a talking point that I have heard from those who are not less fortunate in my life, and the talking point that I'm hearing is a handout, but you're not really saying what a handout is in your eyes. But what you did mention was some of the social programs. Unemployment. Well, you pay into unemployment when you get a job. I don't care. I really don't care. You pay into unemployment when you work, right? That's not a handout. That is a social program, but that's not a handout. Now, when you get into like food stamps and welfare, I think this is what I wanted you to stop on. I really wanted you to clarify what you thought about this because, again, this is a talking point that I have heard for many, many years, and this is a talking point that I myself had wrong as I was a youth, as I was growing up. This is a social program that was set aside to help people get through. The point of advancing yourself, now this is where we're going to touch on our equity versus equality. It's your responsibility to advance yourself. These programs were set up to help people, but it's like a lock on a door. They're for locks on doors are for honest people. So if I'm a crook, you can put a lock on a door, but I'm gonna break in. It don't matter if I want to get in. But if I'm an honest person and I walk up to your house and the door is locked, I'm not gonna try to break in. I'm gonna walk away because that lock was to let me know that you weren't at home and I was not invited into your house. But if I'm a crook, I'm gonna break in anyway. Social programs are the same way. Now, the thing is we have a personal responsibility. But I don't want to get down too deep into that. I just wanted to touch that little bit there. So your thinking is that, again, you piggybacked on my equity versus equality. You're saying that we all deserve and we need to ask for an opportunity for equity in this country, right?
So, kind of,
is that a good summation of what you said?
Not so much, not equity and opportunity, because
right.
I think there's equality. I think there is
equity
opportunity.
And equality. I say equity versus equality.
Right. I think like when you talk about the personal responsibility piece, because that's where I struggle.
Well, but okay, go ahead, because
like I was saying, so a kid that grew up on welfare, mom's on welfare, grandma's on welfare. All they have in their mindset is welfare is the right way to do. So when I go talk to him about opportunities and I talk to him about doing more, he's got a mindset, well, welfare is, I say, why would I get off welfare? That's a good thing for me. It's benefited so many generations in my own family. Why would I do that? See, the mindset's off, right? So although I do hear about personal responsibility, and that's one talking point that I get frustrated about. I'm like, how do you raise a kid in the swaller and then try to expect him to think about living in a house, right? You can't do that. The mindset's not there. So you want to talk about, you need to be personally responsible. Well, everything I grew up, everything I knew is going to really direct how I carry and handle myself. So if I grew up watching people take advantage of a welfare system, and that's all I know, then how am I supposed to get past that if my mindset's not there?
Okay, so then it's the government's responsibility to retrain our kids to not think like that.
I think it's the government's responsibility to really fund people who are doing that. I really don't think the government is responsible for much.
I'm a little bit confused.
So let's say I say, hey, you know what? I want to be a life coach, and as part of my life coaching, I want to go into black communities and really teach these kids about a different mindset and reshaping that mindset. As a small business owner, the government should be like, hey, you know what? That is something that we really want. We don't want to just keep these people on welfare, handing them money. We want to really, shift their mindset, teach them marketable skills, and we're going to fund you to do that. Yeah.
So it's okay for the government to fund a program to reprogram our kids' thinking. That's what you're saying. I'm not saying nothing's wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting it down.
I wouldn't use the word reprogram our thinking. I would use the word shift mindset. Yes.
Shift the mindset. Okay. That's good. That's good. So you're looking at some government programs. Okay, Terry, what about yourself? What are you thinking?
I was about to say time out, but there's a certain piece that says to me, equity can true equity be achieved?
But wait, hold on, stop. Everybody, wait a minute, hold on. Look, equity versus equality is my position on this. Now, I'm asking you guys, what should we be asking for from our presidential candidates as black people in America? Now, you can talk about equity. I ain't got no problem, but I'm just saying. That's the question. The question is, what should we be asking for? And you can talk on that point. I just want to get that out there.
That's what I was trying to get to. Okay, but I'm trying to get to the point is that I think we should be asking our candidates for, like what you said, equity, which is everybody given an equal shot. Whether it be an equal shot. And I mean, as far as where even for when it comes down to being able to succeed, like you said, but I understand there's some things that we have to do as far as changing our community's mindset on certain things. But there comes a time where we're going to have to be like, you know something, we all need an equal shot at this thing called life. Well, what does that look like? Well, I mean, it's like not everybody has access to a great education. So, which means everybody can go to Harvard, but we can all. But honestly though, we pay taxes to these states for these state schools. Why can't state education or education be free, or some form of training be free if we're paying taxes into that? You know what I'm saying? We should not have to. And not everybody can afford to go to a state school, even though state school tuition is much cheaper than going out of state. Give me an equal shot. I want to be, if you got kids that do want to go to college or want to go further their life in a trade or whatever, but they don't feel like they can do it because they can't afford it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So even the playing field. So I guess that's one of them. That's why I hate to say it's one of them Bernie Sanders kind of things. But if it's a state school, I mean, it should not be hard for a person who wants to go and wants to achieve to be allowed to be able to go to a state school or trade school or whatever like that, at a minimal cost. You know what I'm saying? It should not be put out of their reach, should I say.
It's funny how we're encouraged to, and this is something that Jason was speaking on as well, and it's funny and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but it's funny how we're encouraged to further our education, but the very thing that we need to further our education puts us in puts us in prison anyway. And the prison that we're in is a financial straits. And we go out and get a job. That job doesn't pay us enough to live that upper middle class lifestyle and pay back our school loan, right? So they saddle us with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and then we have to pay $500, $600, $800, maybe $1,000 a month back to school loans. Well, we only make $4,000 a month, and by the time you take that $1,000 out, you're at $3,000. Now you're lower middle. You're barely in the middle class as far as income is concerned. So I understand it, and that is a good point. Because some of the other points that I wanted to make, and equity is my theme, so y'all know I'm going to be talking about that for the rest of the show. But some of the things that I was thinking about also, the thing that saddened my heart today, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about police brutality. Now, the nerve of police departments across America, right? Here we are. Black Lives Matter is protesting. Has picked up so much steam that I'm telling you, we got South Africans protesting under the guise of BLM, Black Lives Matter, and here we are in America, and we still got cops killing black people for no apparent reason. The audacity of these law enforcement agencies, right? So another thing that I personally would ask any candidate here, I would say, what is your plan to address the police brutality in our communities, the criminal justice system, or shall I call it the criminal injustice system, because there is no justice for us. How would you address black unemployment? What about housing discrimination? Did y'all know that still goes on today? Terry, wasn't that statistic you quoted to me the other day about black homes, black people who are selling their homes are quoted prices 40% lower than their white counterparts in the exact same neighborhoods and the exact same kind of houses? Am I right or wrong? The appraisals are 40% less.
Yes,
you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so I would ask, another thing I would ask is, what is your plan to address this? And the reason, again, I'm going back to my theme, equity versus equality. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've given up on equality in America. Can I tell y'all the truth? I have completely given up on equality in America. You see, the Jews had it figured out when they got here. And we amass enough money, we make our community stronger, we've got bankers, right? That's their big thing. When you think about Jewish people, a lot of times, and I know I'm stereotyping, but this is just what I've been told and what I've heard and what I've seen. You know what? They got enough wealthy friends that when they go to work for a brokerage firm, and they say, well, you've got 6 months to manage $3 million, right? They call up their friends and family. They got $3 million in 6 weeks. They're going to be brokers forever. They own banks. They manage banks. They get their education. They keep their money in their community first, and then they move it outside of their community. I'm thinking on terms like that. When it comes to equity, I'm thinking of what you said, Jason, and what you said, Terry. Jason says, let's change the mindset. I'll tell you something, Jason. The only thing I don't agree with what you said was, I don't think we need the government to help change our kids' mindsets. I think it's up to us as fathers. I think it's up to us as parents, our mothers and fathers. I think we can do that. And I think that once we start to do that, my parents told me I could be anything that I wanted to be when I was growing up. Now, I'm going to tell you, I was a ruddy little kid with a crazy attitude, and I didn't believe what they were saying. But they told me enough that when I got out of the house and I got on my own, I believed I could do anything because, you know what, I was not going to cry. I was not going to call home crying. Because if I called home crying, Mama was going to bake me my double chocolate cake. She was going to send it to me. My dad was going to listen to me, and he was going to be giving me a stern talking to. My brothers was going to say, oh, that's okay, man. We know you couldn't make it, and we got your back, though. I didn't need that. What I needed to know that I could make it on my own. I needed to know that there was a community that I could reach out to that was going to support me. And so when I started thinking about equity, I started thinking about things like this. I need empowerment so that I can go on. I'm going to be honest with you. I've given up on equality, which means corporate America, it's a nice place to visit, but I ain't planning on staying here forever. Meaning I'm going to go in, I'm going to get this job. I don't care if they start me at the lowest wage. It don't matter because what my goal is to learn everything I can. Because, you know, when you're a do boy and your bosses see you as a do boy, they'll teach you anything as long as you ain't threatening their position. I'll never threaten your position, boss man, boss woman, but I'm going to take the knowledge that you give me, I'm going to take it right back out here. I'm going to start my own company. And so when we start doing that, and then I get my brothers and sisters to come visit my company, I offer a good or service, and I will encourage them. Check this out. This is where we come in as a community. We encourage our brothers and sisters to visit one another's shops. No more of this crab mentality. So again, I ask the future leaders, the future presidents, I ask them, what are you going to do to help me with this? How are we going to facilitate this? Well, I'm going to need you to crack down on these cops. We're going to need to put a system in place. And I do want to tell y'all this, even though I'm asking about presidential candidates, listen. This is the thing I need everybody to hear. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. My fight for the president, for asking the president what they're going to do for my community starts right here in my local community. It doesn't start in Washington, D.C. It doesn't start with the president. It starts right in my local community. All right? And so that's where I'm going with all of this. So I'm sorry. You guys want to interject anything so far?
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
All right, you're good. Okay, well that's good. So when I talk about police brutality, I think that we need some reforms. We need some serious reforms in our police departments. I'm so sick and tired of fraternal order of police, and these guys who run these organizations basically have as much, if not more, power than our local mayors. Some of them got more power than governors, right? The next thing I want to talk about, black unemployment. Let's address the whole black unemployment issue. Because, again, I think this goes into what Jason was talking about, and I think also it plays in a little bit what you're talking about, Terry. Black unemployment. Why is black unemployment so high? I hear Donald Trump all the time brag about what he's done for the black community. Can somebody help me? I have black friends who say to me all the time, well, Barack Obama didn't do anything for the black community. Can somebody help me when they said that George W. Bush didn't do anything for the black community? They said that Al Gore wasn't going to do anything for the black community. When it comes to black unemployment, why are we stuck? Can somebody help me with that? Terry, I know you work out in this where you're kind of a corporate guy. Well, why do you think that's the problem?
Wow. Oh, wow. You just hit me with something that's really – I think about black unemployment, and it's almost like when he's talking about, I've helped like the current president said, I've helped the black people more than any other president. I mean, but really have you? I mean, these jobs that are out, the jobs that you have people are getting are not the jobs. They have to work at least 2 to 3 of those jobs to make ends meet. If that makes sense.
They got to work 2 or 3 of them jobs.
They got to work 2 or 3 of them jobs to make ends meet. To make ends meet a lot of times, and I'm like, okay, but you can't. We got 2 or 3 jobs that we're working, but are we really able to enjoy we're not able to enjoy it. We're not able to and it's really. And it's keeping us kind of bound to where we are. It's not allowing us to progress beyond where we are.
Okay, so
I guess that's that whole piece we're talking about too.
But what would you do? What would you suggest? So how do we fix this unemployment issue?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you know how you always say, you can come with a complaint, but come with a solution. I know this wasn't your complaint,
right?
It was mine, but I'm asking you.
Oh wow! Wow. I like one of the things that you said is like remove the barriers that's keeping our people from being able to, like you said, start our own businesses. I mean. Because if you think about a lot of some of these regulations, I'm as a businessman, I'm thinking about as a businessman how I'm not able to go to a bank, if I don't, there's so many things that are act as roadblocks for me being able to get the money that I need to be able to put forth an idea or that I may have or for a company that I may have. But somebody that doesn't look like me, because my credit may not be where they would like for it to be, so they could, they're able to get it because their credit is where it needs to be. They're able to get something.
Gotcha.
There's so many barriers, and I think, but part of it, like I said, part of it's education on a local level where we've got to teach our people about the importance of credit. I get it, but for those who don't, but if we're talking about starting from this point right now, and somebody may have a wonderful idea for a business, they don't have that credit. But does that discount that? But should their idea not be heard, or should their idea not be looked at to be funded? No.
But all right.
Does that make sense?
So
I think some of the barriers that are in place.
Makes sense. You're saying remove some of the barriers so that people can get out, start their own businesses, so that people can go get the type of education they need and get the jobs that they are qualified for. And they should not be disqualified because of, okay, I understand it, because you mentioned credit. Like I know, when you're in college, man, those credit card companies are burning those colleges up, aren't they? Because they know these college students are going to accept these credit cards. So, Jason, you got anything you want to add to that? Because I got one for you, Jason. Another thing for me is I think we should end this whole, what do they call it, this high school to prison pipeline. What is it called? I know the youth is one of your big things, Jason, and you are always out there. So how can we help fix that whole prison pipeline?
And I think that starts with, basically, you got to think about how our kids are treated in school. All
right, go ahead.
I've been listening to people, and it is really true where you get phone calls about kids, and typically, black kids, and these teachers are saying, well, they're unruly, they're not responsive. And it's interesting, like my son, and I'll take him for example. He's a little active. He gets in his world, he starts doing his thing, and he has a hard time responding, but he doesn't have a hard time responding to me. But with me, I'm very direct with him. I'm very stern with him. I'm very like, hey, this is how things are going to be. And when I talk to his teachers in his classroom, I ask them, like, how are you addressing him? How are you addressing him? And I look at him straight up. I'm like, you can't talk to him that way, right? You just need to be really stern with him, stern, and just let him know, hey, this is what it's going to be, and he's responsive. And it's interesting because as he grew up, most of his teachers were white, but he had this one black teacher, and he had no problems with her ever. And he would say, man, she scares me. And I think what happens a lot of times is these kids are written off as bad kids, as uncontrollable kids, but it's the dynamic of what they grew up in. They're used to dealing with adults who are a lot more stern, who are a lot more strict. And the teacher wants to say, well, this kid can't be controlled. And it's like, well, no, it's not really the kid. It's how you address them. And I think sometimes the schools don't really understand the cultural differences in how people, like adults, interact with kids, and they're expecting these kids to come in and be just like any other kid that's out there. I'm like, no, that's not it. And I think that gives, because they wanted to tell me my son was out of control, and to a point he was. I mean, he was pushing his limits, and basically these teachers were like, well, we ask him to stop, and he doesn't. And I'm like, yeah, maybe he should, but my son's going to ask for forgiveness, not for permission. He's going to push his boundaries until you set them. But typically, once you set the boundaries, he doesn't overcome them. He's like a normal kid. You may have to be a little more stern in setting them. But I say that because I've watched kids that I deal with in the high school and middle school ministry, and they are not the most responsive kids, but they're not bad kids either. They're just kids that have to be managed differently. And I think when you talk about the high school to prison pipeline, they want to put these kids out saying they're unruly, they're unmanageable, we can't do nothing with them, so I'm going to throw them out of school. So now this kid doesn't even have a high school education. What's left for them to do? Hit the streets, right? Some of them get a legit hustle, but a lot of them fall into that illegitimate hustle. And like you said, now you've got that pipeline built. So, what I always try to tell the kids, And I usually talk to the parents. I'm like, you need to go up to the school and and don't take the school word for it that your kid's acting a fool. You're like, what is it? Give me specifically what he's doing. And you're like, no, he do that at my house all the time. I just tell him sit down and stop it. Sit down and shut up, and he stops it. What are you doing? I just tell him, he can't do that. But you tell him like sit down and stop it.
I encourage him not to do it.
Right. In a nice, soft-spoken voice. And I'm like, man, some kids don't respond to that. And I think that's one of the problems is that, what are you going to say?
But wouldn't you agree, though, that starts at home? If you're let's say you're extremely tough on your children at home, I'm not a psychologist or a therapist, but wouldn't that then teach them that in order for an adult to get my attention, he or she has to be stern or tough on me? See, I think when it comes to things like that, it has to begin we have to teach our children how to treat other adults. And that's kind of my thing. That's kind of what I think. But
and you're right.
You're right. Can I throw something on it? Can I throw something on that?
Yeah, jump right in.
I think what's happening, a lot of our kids have been parentified growing up. Okay, a lot of the kids nowadays, it's not like what it was when we were kids. We were latchkey kids. Some of us were latchkey kids. We came home from school. We did, our moms told us what to do. We did it. But now you got kids that are raising kids, and what's happening is they don't see how what they're witnessing at home is they're witnessing parents fight. They're witnessing that where they have to raise their brothers and sisters. And what happens is, so when it's time for them to go to school, they don't understand what their role is because they've been parentified. They've been, I've got to go home. I've got to cook dinner. Mom don't cook dinner. Daddy ain't here. Daddy talks about mama like a dog, or daddy talks about mom, or mama talks about daddy like a dog. So therefore, I'm the one that's got to raise these kids. I'm a kid raising a kid. And so when you got kids raising kids and they go to school, what happens is people that are there, the majority of the teachers that are in the school don't understand where these kids are coming from and what's going on in their home. So what happens is that these kids, when you got an adult coming to them and say, hey, you need to stop that. Excuse me, who are you? Talk to me. Well, and the kids saying that from the adult role, because the adult role that they were put in at home. Does that make sense? And so here it is now, you got an adult dealing with a kid who doesn't understand that I'm a child too. So then here it is. So check this out. So now this kid becomes a problem. Because he's questioning authority, because he's now questioning authority. He's doing all these different things, or he or she is doing all these different things. And what happens is then they get thrown out of school. Prison pipeline.
But see, Terry,
right.
To go back to what you're saying, you kind of hit on it. You kind of hit on it earlier. Why is that? See, let's look at the root cause. Why is that kid having to raise his brother and sister? Because mom and daddy has to work 2 or 3 jobs just to get a common thing. So yeah, you're right. It does start at home, but it goes back to what we've been saying. Give me equity. Let me be able to work my 40 hours a week and support my family just like everybody else, right? Let me make sure that I can do that, so my kid, so my younger kid, my older kid doesn't have to raise my younger kid, and they don't have to be parenticized and deal with that. So I'm hearing one thing is equity. All right, so we're going to stay on the theme of equity. How do we get more equity in America? How do we obtain more equity? You guys have already said it. Education, that's one example. A better education. Need to provide better jobs and more education. That was an E40 song that I like. Things will never change. So education is one way for us to obtain more equity in America, right? So the other thing is, and Jason, you just touched on it, is home ownership. Man, have you ever thought about what home ownership does to a community? Have you ever really thought about it? There are some things that we are afforded through home ownership that we're not afforded through renting an apartment, right? Right. There are some things that come with home ownership, especially when it comes to tax breaks.
But there are some responsibilities. But even more than that, there is a transfer of wealth that happens when you own property in America. You see, I'm going into this equity thing. You see, if I die and I have a will and I own 20 rental properties that are valued at $2.5 million, and let's say they paid in full, I owe nothing on them. When I die, I left those to my kids. Guess what I just did? I just transferred $2.5 million worth of equity to my kids. What does that help my kids with? Well, they ain't no longer got to pay for education, okay, because they can afford it.
Right.
If they need some quick cash, if they need cash, they can sell one of the properties, or they can continue to manage them and buy more. The more equity they have in these properties, the more money, the more spending power they have. And so the reason why equity means so much to me is because there's this thing that we can do, and this is what I believe that that afraid of when it comes to black people. They weren't afraid of black people being free. No, they were afraid of black people being free and being able to do the things that they could do, and maybe even better. You see, they call a black man lazy back in the day, not because he was lazy, because to be a slave, you woke up before the sun came up, and you went to bed after the sun went down. So that means you worked all day. Ain't no way in the world you could tell me I'm lazy, and I'm working 12 to 14 hours every day of my life. And then I get a couple of hours off on Sunday so I can do what I do, right? So they weren't lazy. That was just a word they threw out to convince black people that they were something that they were not. So I would rather have equity in this country all day over equality. Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I mean this, equality ain't really been that good to me in this country. I don't get me wrong. I get it. Go ahead. Jump on.
No, you're right, and I think I think if you really think about it, when the slaves transitioned to freedom, they're a threat because you've got the hardest working people in this country. Now, if you give me a fair shot, I'm going to excel past you. There's no question about it, right? Because you talk about it on the plantation when you were in that slave situation, you had to work, and you weren't just working to get by. You were working to live. And you had a drive and determination that you don't get when you're sitting in the plantation house, just having things given to you. So if I gave this person with that drive, determination, access to education, all right, now so he's equal to me in education, access to opportunities. Okay, now he's got the same shot, and he's got a greater work ethic than me. It's a given. You're going to surpass me, right? So what can I do?
Yeah, Jason, it was so funny. It's so funny that you all said that. I just heard a saying this morning by Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey said, "A black man will not be free. A man will not truly be free until his mind is free. Until his mind is free." He said, once black man's mind is free, his body will become free. That's exactly what it was. Until his mind is free, his body will not be free. And so basically what you're saying is
so people can understand
until our mind has been enlightened, until we have been enlightened in our mind, until we have been freed in our mind, we will always be in a place of bondage. We will always be at a place of disadvantage.
And I understand that, but I think that goes for some of us, but not all of us, because, I'm going to lean on Harriet Tubman. I think I said it last week, and she said that I freed thousands of slaves, but I could have freed hundreds more if they had known they were slaves. How many of us are walking through life like that right now? See, it's not the man that has us enslaved. It is we ourselves. Now, the man has created a disadvantage for us. The man has implemented systemic racism and discrimination on every level. I mean, racism, man, it covers everything in American society. All right? They've made it hard for us, but they don't have a prison. Hold on. They don't have a prison for all of us. Some of us are prisoners in our own mind. Go ahead.
Right. And so, Cedric, I would say that, yes, I do believe that a lot of us are prisoners in our own mind. However, I also believe that the powers that be have created a system that imprisons us. You know, you and I have talked about this before. You know, how we talk about, you know, they always show cops killing black men on TV. You never see a cop killing a white man on TV.
They show the black man face. Yeah, but when it's a white man, they blur the face out. They blur the blood out.
Right.
They stop the video short.
Right. So what you do is now I'm socializing the average black man to say, look, I'm gonna kill you right in front of everybody, and I'm gonna let everybody see it. You know, when you talk about history,
so they become callous to it.
Right. Well, it's callous, but it also shifts that mindset of the person. Like, man, I'm seeing people like me just getting killed. You know, what do I think about myself? You talk about history when you teach history in school. They don't teach about the successful black people. They teach about the slaves, and then they sprinkle in, well, in spite of the slavery, look at what these people did. So the norm is, okay, are we normalize, like, well, black people are slaves and all the struggle they went through and all the shortcomings they had. Oh, but let us tell you about those few people who, the exceptions to the rule, and those few people that did greatness. And it kind of builds a mindset. Yeah, you are identifying people who've excelled, but you kind of set the norm to be like, you know, you're lesser than. And these are the systems that we constantly create. You know, the systemic part of it, where I get in the elevator, little white lady want to clutch her purse and act like, ooh, what's going to happen to me? You know, these are the systems that are still in place, and these are the systems that kids grow up in. And you want to talk about shifting your mindset. You know, I believe what Marcus Garvey said. Until we free our minds, we're going to be constantly in bondage. And the crazy thing is, you know, the people, you know, so much of white America looks at it as like, well, we don't still have slavery. And I'm like, but do you see all these little things that constantly add up? And we're not talking about, you know, something I see 30 minutes here, an hour here when I'm watching the news. Man, this is a lifetime that I lived. And that's what people don't really understand. I'm 43 years old, and for 43 years, I have experienced this on some level or another, these little what we all call microaggressions. You get that done for about the first 10, 12 years of a kid's life, you've already shaped their mindset. You've already shaped their mentality.
You're definitely going to have some issues with it, aren't you? See, and that's the thing, because about kids, I also want to include adults in this, is that, you know, there has to be a positive movement for youth development, because if we start with our youth, then preferably the next generation, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I remember when I was a kid, my parents said, and by the time you get our age, you know, racism won't exist in America. We will have overcome so many plateaus. Well, I'm going to tell y'all right now, I think it's more racist now than it was when I was a kid, or about the same. I don't think much has changed. The only thing that's changed is the dates on the calendar. I'm going to be honest. Now, I wasn't around when they had separate drinking fountains, just to let the world know that. But I don't think much has changed since I was a kid. I mean, I hear people out here using the N-word. I meet people, and I'm not talking about in an affectionate way, because I don't like either way you use it. But I hear it, and now it's back into politics. It wasn't there for a long time. It was taboo to talk the way that some politicians talk right now. I mean, and it's not just, and the funny thing is, racism against blacks, you guys, I don't have to tell y'all black, y'all know how it works. But now we've included, I'm going to say alternative lifestyles, the LGBTQ, and whatever the other letter is. We include everybody in it. If you don't do what we do the way we do it, then we discriminate against you. And that's a big deal in our country. But as far as what I would ask our politicians for, again, these are things that need to be addressed, but I like the term you used just a minute ago, Jason, microaggressions, because that's where they start. And if they don't get addressed, then they just get worse and worse. And then they normalize it. You don't believe me? Look at the way Donald Trump talks. What mature man in a position of power talks the way he talks? Only him. And he has empowered other men women to act that way. And we have to stop normalizing it. So I'll say for the black community, we have to start normalizing the behaviors. Or I'm going to say we have to start normalizing positive behaviors. We have to start normalizing profitable behaviors. You know what I'm saying? So I like what both of you said. I use the word programming, but we need to program our kids for success. And as long as we keep allowing video games, TV, sports, raise our kids as opposed to academia and reading books. I mean, even play some of those games, those mind game type puzzles. If we don't stimulate the minds of our children today, I'm telling you, tomorrow they're going to fall flat. If we don't push them through the education system and help them to see bigger and better for themselves, we're going to see another generation, okay, of children who are underachieving. I don't care how much of an overachiever your child is, the entire population, their entire senior class when they graduate are going to be filled with underachievers. What good does it do if one or two of us gets out? And when I say get out, what good does it do if one or two of us are successful and we can't help anybody else give up? I tell you what, I think that guys like LeBron James in the future are going to be a textbook study of what it takes to get out of school and get ahead, right? Because I don't know about y'all, but geeks rule. Geeks are more successful than athletes. But athletes and geeks together, man, nobody can stop us. And so I'm saying that I want an opportunity. I want equity in our society. I want an opportunity to have equity in this society. Equality, I'm going to be honest, me personally, I'm being a little bit pessimistic. Equality will come when we have the same equity. When we have equality and equity in this country, we're going to start getting treated differently. And I know we're about to close out, so I'm going to give you guys a chance to give your last few words and leave us with something good and powerful. Because I believe that once equity catches up, equality will catch up. So go ahead, Jason. You go ahead.
So I just kind of piggyback on that. I think you're right. I think what we need to be striving for is equity, and getting people to realize we're not all have equal. We are not all starting on a level equal playing field, and let's level the playing field. And then once that playing field level, watch us do what we normally do. Black people always succeed. How many people we know that are hustling, and we look at it as a norm? What you're talking about is entrepreneurial ability. There are people paying millions of dollars to get to learn a skill that comes naturally to us because of our situation and our circumstance. So if you can give me equity, then I will create the equality. So I think that's what we need to be fighting for, and that's what we need to be asking for.
Okay. All right, Terry, you want to add anything there?
Yeah. Once the equity has been achieved, one of the things that I really want to put a pin in is this: don't move the goalpost, because you want to try to put yourself back in a place of power, because that's what happens when they set the goal. Okay, they set the playing field. Everybody can get a high school diploma. That's where it started. And then after it became a high school diploma. No, well, they started. I'm just using that as a base. Is that everybody get a high school diploma, you could be successful. And then it became you got to get a bachelor's degree. And after that, it became a master's degree. So once equity's set, like Jason said, we're going to achieve. We're going to achieve. Once we know what the rules of engagement are, we're going to achieve. But don't move the goalposts just because you feel intimidated or just because you feel like you're losing power.
Yeah. Amen. I appreciate that stuff. I appreciate that very much. Sister Kim, you can get ready to cue us up. I appreciate that so much, because the thing is, I love the different opinions we have. But you know what, guys? I think next week I would like to I want to give you all an opportunity to see what equality versus equity looks like, right? And what our plan is for our future of achieving equity over equality, because I just saw this wonderful cartoon about equality and equity. Now, picture this, if you will. There's a fence, right? And there's a dad and his 2 children. This fence is 6 feet high. Okay, dad's full grown. He's got one son who's probably 10, another son who's probably 3 or 4. All right, they have these milk crates. So 3 milk crates, all the milk crates are the exact same height. Now, we're talking about equality here. All the 3 milk crates are the exact same height. You can imagine dad stands on one milk crate. It's a 6-foot fence. He can see straight over. The 10-year-old stands on the milk crate. It's up to his chin, but he can see over. But then the 3-year-old is on a milk crate, and it's way over his head. He can't see over the fence. Now we're talking about equity. The next picture, this is a cartoon I'm describing. The next picture is dad is standing on the ground. He can see straight over the fence. They're looking at a baseball game, just so you know. So he can see straight over the fence. The 10-year-old is standing on the milk crate. He can see over the fence because, again, it's at his chin. Now, the 3-year-old kid has got 2 milk crates, and now he can see over the fence. So everybody can watch the game. Equality versus equity. I want to talk about that next week, and I want to get a little more in depth. So I want you guys to come armed with your talking points so we can actually have a show and the 3 of us can get our opinions out and we can talk about it. So each of us can come armed with 1 or 2 opinions and we can all 3 talk about it. That should get us through an hour. What do you guys think? All right, great.
I've seen that cartoon. I love it. I've seen that cartoon.
Hey,
and
you
yeah,
love it?
Yeah, it was a good cartoon,
So,
and it's a great illustration of equality versus equity.
Absolutely. So, so with that being said, guys, next week we're going to talk about equality and equity in America. We're talking from a Black American standpoint. So, with that being said, as we say here on Relentless Pursuit Radio, find something you love. I need you to embrace it and chase it, and that is your relentless pursuit. This is Minister Sedric saying have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Terry. Sister Kim, we love you. You can go ahead and take us out. Everybody have a great weekend. God bless you.